The Boston housing crunch will be in the spotlight on March 14th at a city council hearing. The council is considering a measure that would give some tenants new safeguards from displacement. To tell us about the proposal and a rally planned before the hearing are two community advocates, the co-director of the Chinese Progressive Association, Chen, and the Boston coordinator for Right to the City, Darnell Johnson. Thank you both very much for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
I want to start with Chen. I mean, it's well known that we're in a hot housing market almost everywhere in the city, and it's hard for a lot of tenants to keep pace with that. But talk about what eviction does, how much worse that makes things for people.
So, almost every corner of the city, people being displaced out of their homes. And, in particular, immigrant and communities of colors actually feel the most pressure. So there's, 2/3 of Boston's residents are renters, and 55% of them are people of color. And, over and over again, in this show, in different city council hearings, I think in data, we make the case that, there's a housing crisis and working families in Boston are being displaced out of their homes.
Well, speaking of data, I know there was one recently developed affordable housing development in Chinatown, and there was a huge number of people trying to get it done, yeah.
Right, so there was like 90 affordable units available, but there was over 5,000 applicants. Wanted to get into the affordable units.
Darnell Johnson, what about the things you can do to protect tenants? I mean, rent control seems an extremely long shot politically, so what else can you do?
It is. There's several things the city can do. Just cause is just one of them. It's a minor lever that the city can enact to protect tenants, to keep them in their homes right now. There are other levers that we are advocating for, such as inclusionary development and also the CPA, which add resources to build affordable housing. But this is a crisis that we know we cannot build our way out, and at the same time we need to preserve what's here and keep residents in their home. So we see just cause eviction as a way of saying corporations and landlords that are buying up blocks and blocks of housing, you cannot just push the people out. You need to have a just cause in place in order to evict them. And so we're going after those folks that own it's about 20% of the owners of Boston. 80% of our own landowners are good landlords that do the right thing, and they own 2 or 3 or 4 units and live in them. We're going after the folks that live out of the city, out of the country, that are buying and speculating on Boston.
Well, what often happens, Darnell, with these corporate landlords, you don't just have on the deed the same company owning all these properties. You might have a different limited liability corporation for each address. So how do you crack down on them without cracking down on the small mom and pop owners?
It's really about the owner. It's about how much does the owner own. And we're finding that the small mom and pops, they own the unit that they live in, and they may have 1 or even 2 units in the neighborhood next to them that they're keeping up. We're not going after those folks. Those folks are with us in providing a just cause because they want to keep their property taxes down, they want to keep the neighborhoods affordable, and they want to keep people in their homes with them in the communities that they live. We're going after targets of people who don't live in our community, that don't really care about Boston, that are just looking at Boston for money. And they're pulling money from these low-income people of color communities, much like the mortgage loan collapse that we saw happen with subprime loans coming into neighborhoods of color and ripping them of their money.
So owner-occupants of 4 units are exempt from just cause eviction. And part of this legislation is also going to help, owners who actually wants to keep rent affordable so that their tenant can stay there. So, so it's actually really, to help small property owners who actually wants to continue to be part of the community and to support, working families.
Well, Darnell mentioned inclusionary zoning, Karen, and this is about how developers are required to provide either units or some money for creation of affordable housing. Mayor Walsh recently strengthened that overall in some ways. What else do you think needs to be done?
So, it's great that we have more resources, right? But the need, it's greater than what we can provide. I'm just looking, talking about Chinatown. In the last, 3 months, we only in March, I can count just the ones that I know of, more than 7 families are being displaced, and this is people who actually decide to fight in court and to stay in their homes. And there's other people who are being pushed out. And Chinatown is not that big, and this is how severe the problem is. So I think that the time is now for the city to do something, for the city, because neighborhoods like Chinatown, East Boston, is what makes this city vibrant. And so we really need to see elected officials and city councilors really to stand up for the people of Boston and their right to remain, so that this city remains to be, a vibrant city. And there's a lot of talks about, we want Boston, to be a world-class city. And when we talk about, a world-class city, this type of issue, this kind of policy, the right to remain, to help people stay in their homes, is what, our elected officials need to stand up, for the people.
Darnell Johnson, you mentioned the potential for new revenue from the Community Preservation Act. This would be a surtax on top of the property tax bills. A lot of people should be able to pay that because their property is worth more money, but some of those are, people who've been owning houses for a long time, and maybe they might be on a fixed income by now, so you got to worry about them.
We're looking at a very modest increase, and it's an increase. I always tell folks it's a couple of happy meals a month that you can just give up to go toward affordable housing and to actually preserve your neighborhood. This is really about the city council and the mayor saying, yes, we want to protect Boston residents. We want to make Boston residents be able to live, play, and work here in Boston together.
Yeah, the Community Preservation Act, you're talking about, a surplus of for some people, it's like $10, $20. But that would create a lot more resources for affordable housing. And actually, there are exemptions actually for elderly.
Karen, what about the events that are planned on Monday? Because before the hearing, you're going to be having a rally outside City Hall?
Yes. Well, we'll have an action outside of City Hall to show, how severe the issues of displacement is, and that, probably not everyone will get to speak at the hearing. So there'll be tenants also will be testifying and talking about, how displacement have impacted their family and their lives. And the hearing will be at 4:00.
Darnell, what would you point to if you were to talk about the impact on people in the city, or even just character of certain neighborhoods?
I would say it's about justice. It's about equality. The easiest way to talk about just cause eviction is that right now your landlord does not have to give you reason to evict. We think that they do. It's very simple. We're not talking about rent control. We're not talking about putting limits on what landlords can and cannot do with their properties. We're just saying very basic. You need to be equitable with your tenants, and you need to provide a reason for why you would like to evict.
And this is a very moderate legislation to slow down displacement. And you see that other cities, do have the just cause eviction. Chicago, New Jersey, San Francisco, Seattle, Washington, D.C., they all have it. And I think that Boston is falling behind in protecting their tenants. And it's time for us to stand up and say, you know what, we're going to be one of the cities that keep families in their homes.
All right, thank you both very much, Karen Chen and Darnell Johnson.